calling in from? Nice looking space. Looks like
Brooklyn,
Harlem.
Crown
Really
Heights,
cool.
Crown Heights. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good guess though.
Well, love it, man. Thanks for doing this. I've had a lot of fun with these. This is session 147 or
Holy
something
shit!
crazy like that. Yeah. So I've been banging
You've
them
been
out.
busy. You've been busy.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, would
Okay.
love a little background on you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Would love to get born and raised just because that helps me get DNA.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
also the path that you took to what you're to where you're at now,
Mm-hmm.
and then a little bit more about what you're doing now.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
recording, by the way.
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So born and raised in Guyana, South America. That's only English speaking country in South America. So Caribbean culture, but geographically on the mainland. Moved here to the U.S. when I was about 16. Did a year of high school over here, and then progressed to university. I went to an engineering school, but studied finance and operations. And then sort of I graduated in 2009, so right at the dip, right. So picked up what I could. Started as like a sales assistant in general insurance, and then sort of stayed in insurance for a bit. So I now work for a company called Equitable. Recently divested from its French parents over in Europe, and my work for the last 3 years has been my team handled that divestiture internally. So background is a little bit technical. Have some HR experience, and now have some investment planning and sort of enterprise resource planning experience, right? So where I sit now, I guess if you look across companies, they would just call it transformation. That's what my team does. So that's sort of academic into where I am in the career space now. Went to NYU. Just graduated from Baruch with my master's like last week.
Wow,
Yeah,
congratulations.
thank you. So now looking for that, and I'm married as well to my beautiful partner of 10 years. So now, we're both immigrants. She's from Pakistan, I'm from Guyana. We're looking to build, right? And set ourselves up so we can support the people that have supported us for so long. The vehicle to do that, we think is in real estate. We do pretty well for ourselves. Combined income is like 250K, just north of. So yeah, we'd like to sort of spread out and not make the jobs our sole source of income. Looked at a lot of your videos, look at your sort of journey in real estate in particular. And I know a bit of the backstory on Harlem Capital, but paid attention to you as you worked on this property that you just got inspected and just got closed out, and started thinking about where do we start? Where do I start? Is it secondary markets? Is now the right time? What are the things we should be doing to enter that game, right? That's where our head is. Gotcha. So the first thing for us is to start building up some capital so we can enter. But I want to have a game plan ahead of that, right? So we get to 20% of whatever property price we're gunning for. What do we do then?
Right. Do you have what's your overhead like? Is it pretty lean or is it pretty expensive right now?
I would say pretty expensive. So we spend, our monthly coming in just from the paycheck. This would be net, is about 14, and we're probably spending about 7 of that just on just spending, right? Between rent and some loans and eating out a lot. Just you know how it spreads, right?
Yeah, no, I get it.
And then the other 7 sort of we're tucking away, trying to save. Yeah.
Okay. So
and it could be leaner, but that's where we are. Yeah.
Okay. So if you wanted to like sacrifice and eat out less, let's say, and whatever, you could probably stash away definitely 8, maybe 9, maybe 10, let's say.
Right.
But so then
If we squeeze hard enough.
if you squeeze, right? So, but even if you don't, at your present lifestyle, call it 3K of lifestyle or 2K of lifestyle. You're still at 7K that you're tucking away. 12 months, that's 84K. Not bad. In a couple of years, you can put together a nice chunk of cash.
Right. So that's where we sit right now. And of course, this, I think, John, this will shift. This was our reality up until March, right? So, of course, those numbers are going to be tweaked a little bit, but we still have flexibility. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome, man. Well, first things first, I commend you for, you put the work in up to this point to even have the luxury of having options and stuff like that. So, bless you and your wife for making that happen.
Thank you.
And you're thinking about it the right way. How old are you?
33.
Love it. Super young, and I got started in real estate pretty young, and I only wish I started sooner. Because you are gonna pay the rookie tax.
Yep.
You are gonna get beat up, and you will do things not as efficiently as they could have been done. However, that's the cost of entering.
Right.
So after I finish these sessions today, for instance, I'm gonna go have lunch with or dinner, I guess, with a landlord friend of mine, and he has 400 units, and he's your age. He's 33. He's fucking cash flowing, and you'll hear about more experienced landlords getting better deals.
Right.
He's getting good deals, man. He's buying big shit for like half the price that I'm paying for something half the size.
Right.
And so, on the outside looking in, it's like, oh man, I can't wait. But in reality, you pay the rookie tax so many times that you start building up efficiencies, and you really start being able to kind of get in your bag, so to speak, down the road. So, with that said, okay, there's a number of ways that you could go about doing it. You brought up secondary markets, you brought up primary markets. What I would do is the following. First, let's discuss the mechanics of it. You would create an LLC between you and your wife. That's your real estate investing vehicle. Right? You can call it, Samson Properties LLC, whatever you want. Now, that entity is not going to actually own the actual assets. Okay. You're gonna create an LLC for every property that you acquire. This is called the single assets LLC, which is just a regular LLC, but the sole function and purpose of this LLC is just to hold that property. And the reason that you do that is so that if you ever get sued or something, God forbid, any potential lawsuits or risks or liabilities is contained to whatever that particular LLC owns. Versus having it set up so that you hold all your properties at Samson Properties LLC.
Right.
Then you get one lawsuit and they're coming after everything you got.
Right.
So you'll set up a single asset LLC for every property that you acquire. Okay. And then what happens is Samson Properties is the managing member of that particular LLC. Right. And then your interest, whatever interest you own in that property, you might own 100% if you and your wife bought it outright. You might own 50% between you and your wife if you raise another 50% for some friends.
Right.
But whatever your particular ownership interest is flows through from the individual single asset LLCs up to
holdings. Yeah.
Samson. And then it flows up from Samson to you guys.
Gotcha.
So that's the mechanics of it. But now let's discuss the strategy element. So it depends on what you want to optimize for. Me personally, I think when I had like 70 grand saved up or something like that, I felt like, all right, bet I want to get into this. I know I want to, do it. And, I went through a myriad of options that were available to someone with 70K. In New York, you could just about with 3.5% down squeeze into a small condo, with 70K to 100K, let's say.
Yeah.
So, and that was very enticing for me and is very enticing for me because It's like, okay, you get to own property in New York City.
Right.
However, when I did the math, I was like, damn, so I'm going to put up $100,000.
Yep.
And then I'm going to expense I'm going to incur the expense of furnishing it.
Yep.
And then the mortgage is super high. So I was like, damn. So I'm going to own property in New York City.
Yeah.
But the price to pay is pretty high for that. Because aside from the fact that I'm getting rid of my main chunk of cash, the mortgage worked out to be more than my rent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, I'm not doing this. I just can't.
Right.
$70K, another $5K in fees, another $20K in furniture, and then you're stuck with $4 or $5K a month. I was like, I can't do it. So I will rule that out pretty quickly. Another option you have is you could do the whole, because you get residential financing up through 4 units.
Right. Yep.
So you can get away with 3.5% down up through 4 units. So I thought, okay, bet. Let me do 3.5% down on a 3-fam or a 4-fam in the Bronx.
Go live in it. Yeah.
Go live in one, rent the 3, blah blah blah. But then I got unenamored with that as well, because disenchanted with it, because I was like, man, I'm gonna go live in a place. This is what happens when you buy on a budget. You're going to go live in a place that you don't really love, and it's true. So here's the let's explore the pros and cons. The pro is 3 other units or 2 other units, depending if it's 3 or 4. The way the math will work out is it will null out your expenses.
Right.
And you might cash a little bit if you're lucky, $100-$200. But you'll certainly be able to take care of the insurance, tax, whatever. However, and the really big benefit is then you're living rent free.
Right.
So then you do get to have a year or 2 or however long you want to live there with accelerated earnings.
Right.
Or accelerated savings. Boom, boom, boom. You're stat, so you can kind of get ahead that way. So that's a really big pro of that. The risk that I underwrote with that was like, okay, the downside is New York laws are super tenant friendly.
Yep.
And so if you get even one person to squats, and then say coronavirus hits,
it's
tenants not paying 3, 4, 5, 6
ton
months.
of resources out the window. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible. And then remember, you were only just breaking even if you had everyone paying.
Right.
So now if you're running at 50% of or 75% of your tenancy is paying, then that means, because the mortgages on these New York City rents can be mortgages can be quite expensive. So the risk return was not there for me. Where I ended up netting out, which, as you know, but I'll provide more color around it. My thinking was, okay, let me do the sound. Let me actually be an investor here.
Yep.
The condo thing's not investing. The living in a one in out of 4, that's more like house hacking.
Right.
But like, let's be an investor and deploy capital into an asset that's going to generate returns. And I fell in love with just that, with that thesis.
That's exactly where my head is. That I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I know people that did the house hacking, and I'm thinking about cap rates as well when you do those things, and it's like, does the math actually work out? You getting this condo, you living in a super expensive house in New York, even though you're kind of breaking even, and there is no cap rate really to speak of, at least in New York.
Right. Exactly. Right? For sure not. You're 100% correct on that. And that's the same thing that I was just like, whoa, this is scary. So I was okay, and I am okay with renting. Like, I liked where I lived in New York, and I was renting, and my rent was like, I don't know, $1,700 or something like that.
Yeah.
Doable. I like the apartment. And I was like, you know what? Let me rent where I live, but own what I rent.
Yes.
Like, own what I rent out. Because if you do the math on it, rent where you live, own what you rent. If you do the math on it, it's the highest bang for buck, because my annual rent expense was like $25K, and the cost of owning your primary residence requires such a big chunk of capital that the opportunity cost on that is massive. So So now let's set our sights on like pure investing. The only logical place to do it with a limited amount of capital, which is what you and I have, limited cash. The only logical place to do it is in a secondary market where there's cash flow. And the principles that I look for are markets with strong population growth. 3% is considered super high.
Okay.
And the reason I like population growth is because population growth, I really trust human nature. Right? If there's a net migration into a place, that's usually because there's jobs, there's quality of life, there's something good about the place that people are moving. Usually jobs and cheaper rent. And then the other thing I look for is a varied economic sector. So I personally don't like when any one town is employed by too much by any one industry.
Yeah, like a steel town or auto town or
For sure. So like in Allentown where I am, it was considered a manufacturing town, but even manufacturing is just 15% of the GDP.
Gotcha.
You got medicals another 10%. You got e-commerce another 15%, and so it's got a really varied economic makeup, and you can really tell in a COVID world because one thing shut down everything and made it really blighted.
Right.
So then, okay, so now let's lock in there. So now that means you got to find a market first. I like to go top down. First, you find a market. By the way, I have zero problem with you coming and choosing Allentown or Lehigh Valley. It's a good market. Easton, Pennsylvania is another good one. Bethlehem is a little bit more expensive, but it's a little bit nicer.
And these are Philly. These are
like Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. So it's
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, an hour and a half. So my whole thesis is within 2-hour drive from any core market in the States are several cash flow markets, depending on which direction. So if you go west, hour and a half, that's all it takes. Then you're in PA. And this is the first set of cities, right past the border there. Right. So it's like you traverse all of Jersey. The moment you hit Pennsylvania, boom, that little region is the Lehigh Valley. So actually a lot of people live in Lehigh Valley and work in New York. Now I started actually searching for these little trails where, people like us, like we make a lot of money. We can afford to live in New York. But that's not true for the vast majority of people. And also, I started noticing that I just don't think people can sustain the cost of living in New York. And I think these other markets will continue to get more expensive.
Absolutely. Yep.
So the more stock you have earlier, the better, right? So another market could be Newark. It's a little bit expensive. You're probably going to be able to only buy a duplex, right? So now, why do I like bigger property? Well, the valuation method from anything that's 1 through 4 units is a comparable based valuation, which means that the price of your asset is based on the median price of assets on your block.
Okay.
Which personally I don't like because look, I know a lot of people that make a lot of money doing that. Why? Because that means you can have it work to your advantage. You can spot something in a block where it's underpriced, buy it, fix it up, and then sell it for the market rate, and you can make the spread. However, 2008 hits and all houses go down, and your value plummets. It doesn't matter what you have in there. So I even though the barrier to get financed is lower anywhere 1 through 4 units, anything 5 units plus, the valuation is income based. It's an income based valuation. So you get a certain multiple on your net operating income.
Okay.
So now you start entering into pure investor territory because why? Because the bank is backing into the buyer and who the buyer is. So, anything 1 through 4, it's Susie, it's Susie and Jones, who are trying to house hack or are trying to buy their primary residence. Anything 5 plus, it's an investor looking to buy. An investor is looking to buy and what they're willing to pay is what's going to generate the return to them, right? Their financial decision. So the reason I really like that is because that's entirely in your control. You can acquire an asset that you believe the rents are undervalued, and you can make repairs into the asset and over time increase the net operating income. and literally you are controlling the value of the asset. It's entirely in your hands. You can add laundry, you can improve the units, you can. And by the way, you don't even need to gentrify the place. Like my place is a certain percentage of the units are Section 8.
Right. Right.
So you know, so now what we're in is now we're talking about forced appreciation. And I don't necessarily believe the whole idea that you need to buy low, sell high. Sure, that's obvious, but that takes many forms.
Right.
You know? Sometimes buying low could really mean buying fair.
Right.
A good asset at a fair price.
Right.
You know, a great asset at a good price, or a good asset at a great price.
Right. Right.
It depends. So now the options available to you will vary. You can buy something that's called like turnkey, which has been completely de-risked, which says like, hey, all you need to do is put the key and turn it. That's it. That's a myth, by the way. I bought my first deal. That first one that gave me a lot of fucking headaches was supposedly a turnkey property.
The one that you put all the work into.
Yeah. It says turnkey on the broker package, so you'll always see them say turnkey.
Yeah.
So rule number one: never believe the broker.
Okay.
Right. But now so the cap rate, which you might know the formula, is the net operating income divided by the purchase price, which
market value
tells you is how much. What's your return if you were to pay all cash?
Right.
You'll never pay all cash. Almost never pay all cash. But the reason that you use that metric is so that you can assess the performance of the property without accounting for the leverage that you get in financing.
Right.
Because the financing is very specific to the individual. You can get good rates, you can get bad rates depending on credit, whatever. But the point is, the cap rate shows the performance of the property. But now, let's dissect the cap rate. People don't really talk about it that much. People will go chasing really high cap rates. But there's a reason something's a 13 cap.
Yeah.
It's a 13,
which is unusually high.
You got 13 headaches, that you got to deal with. You got the boiler, the roof, the this and that. So I realized like, okay, cap is, even though it tells you your return, it's also indicative of if the seller, since the formula, Nick, is NOI over purchase price. If you have a high cap rate, that means the purchase price.
Right.
Now I'm realizing that the cap rate and the purchase price are inversely correlated. High cap rate, low purchase price.
Right.
Low cap rate, so driving the cap rate down. Think about the risk. Think about like if this were the ground. The higher the cap rate is, the taller something is, the more likely it's to stabilize.
Right.
Where it is,
the more stable it is.
Stabilized, but that means that, remember, they're inversely correlated, which means the purchase price is going high.
Right.
So now I started to realize these are learnings that took me some months to really dial in. Right? The purchase price and the cap rate are inversely correlated, which means if the purchase price is high, that means that's not because the seller was feeling generous. That's because he couldn't get the price that he wanted.
Right.
Which means that it's got its equal and reciprocal amount of risk. That doesn't mean, by the way, it's a bad deal.
Yeah.
That just means it's got more hair on it.
Right.
So now what you and your wife are going to have to get good at is discerning, okay, what risks are we comfortable with? I bought blind, right? I paid the rookie tax, right? I bought what I thought was turnkey and ended up having a lot of problems. But you know what the benefit of that is? Now I'm on the other side of this deal. And now I know my shit because I went through the storm.
Right.
So now what can I do? I'm out there looking for 13 caps.
Yeah.
Because I have the core competencies and the network and the know-how. I'm not scared of those deals. I can drive the cap rate down.
Right.
So now my portfolio acquisition strategy is I want to buy at a blended cap rate of like 9 or 10. I'm buying some lower. I want a percentage of my portfolio to be stabilized, right?
Stable. Yep.
And I want something a little bit higher risk because that's really where you get your pop.
Right.
Okay? So let me break down a deal for you as an example. I bought this property that I'm in right now. Is I own this deal. I bought this one for $300. Okay. It needed a lot of work, so I got a hard money loan on it. This is the deal that I bought. This one, the lender financed $225K. So they'll finance 80% of your acquisition. You put up 20%. The lender also put up 100% of the renovation cost.
Okay. Was it through the hard lending? Is FHA? Is it like a?
No, the banks do not offer this. You have to go to the private lending market.
Gotcha.
A good lender to start, just to save you time, is ABL.
Okay.
Asset-based lending. They are the most transparent, by far the best, in my opinion. The best. Because a lot of these, because it is a private market, a lot of these people get charged.
Yep.
They'll screw you with fees and they'll set you up so that you miss a payment and then they take your property. So it's really important to go with like a really good, solid lender, right? So now you and your wife will have to decide, okay, we just put together $100,000. Do we want to make our first deal close to turnkey? In which case, you know, in the secondary market, you probably make 10% return on your money. You put in $100K, you're going to make $10K a year. It doesn't seem like a lot, especially to a New Yorker, but that's a cash flow that's there for life.
Man. Right. And your property is presumably appreciating at a certain point.
For sure, it's appreciating, and you're paying off the debt. So not only do you get the arbitrage of it going up in value, the debt service is going down, or the debt's going down, and you're being paid while you wait.
Right.
Now, I personally was hungrier for more returns. It's what you call chasing alpha.
Yeah.
I was looking for alpha, which means, okay, if you find a good deal that has when it has meat on the bones, that means there's appreciation there. You buy a deal with no appreciation, completely retail. You pay exactly what it's worth.
Right.
The only alpha that you'll stand to get is if the market goes up.
Right.
If the market doesn't go up, then at the very least, you hold a good asset that will pay you while you wait.
Right.
The flip side is, and this is what I was after, I wanted to get the benefit of a market that's going up, but also buy an asset that's undervalued
and appreciating over time. Yeah.
Because then you get double alpha. Instead of buying at level, you bought below market, and the market went up, which, by the way, happened. So, and because if you can buy low enough, it actually gives you a lot of cushion to make the mistakes. I actually, I'm very thankful. I'm sitting down at the refinance table in 2 days.
Okay.
You know, so again, the deal was 300. We only put up 75K to buy it, and the lender was financing the repairs. We ended up having to put up another like 150 out of pocket. So all in, the 300 plus the 100 that they loaned plus our 150. That's building appraised at 750. So because we bought so low, it gave us plenty of room to make mistakes. And we're refinancing. We're pulling out all the equity that we put in.
Okay.
So now what you have, and that's really where you want to be, because now you bought a deal. You went through whatever lessons you had to go through. You get to the refinance table. You pull your money out. And guess what? You and your wife can take that same equity that was essentially recycled. You put it in, you increase the value, you can pull it out, and then you take the same amount and you put that to work, and that's your next property.
Yeah, and you go for the next one. Yeah, no, this is exactly sort of high level what we're thinking, right? That's the direction. I'm just glad to know it's the right sort of direction, right?
And it's real. Because it feels fake when you're on the other side. Like before I got it, I was like, wait a second. Tell me I put the money in, I get the money out, I still own the property, I cash flow, and I could buy another one?
Yep.
It's real. And here's the bizarre thing. When you refinance, you know, the reason you net is because you have a new property value, a new bank gives you a new amount, and then you pay off the old bank.
Right.
And that, you know, you keep the spread pretty
much. Your margin. Yep.
However, that's not taxable income because it's technically debt.
Right.
So you get all that money out. It was a tax deductible going in. It's tax free going out.
Yeah.
And by the way, you don't even have to pay the loan back because the building pays it back.
Right. Over time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's nasty.
that sounds. I mean, it's great. Like that's where we want to get. That's where we want to get. That's where we want to get.
So I think you're thinking about it 100% the right way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've spoken to a lot of people that like wanted to do the house hacking, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'll never discourage it because I think it's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But you're probably the first or second guy that I've spoken to that is set on what I feel is real fundamental investment.
Right.
Round your cash up, buy an asset that cash flows, target a 12% cash on cash return.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that should be your threshold. And in a market like this, you can make more. There's always going to be higher yields on small deals, but the resale value will be affected because remember, on smaller deals, you're selling to smaller investors. Bigger investors, they de-risk big, nice assets.
Mm-hmm.
If you're willing to pay a premium for it, that means someone else is willing to pay a premium for it.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, man, this served only to validate everything that you were already thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And as you go on, you'll have questions that I want to be available to you. So on a non-transactional basis, my email that I sent to book me, that's my actual email.
Awesome.
Hit me anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Then this is the kind of game where you definitely need a sounding board.
Mm-hmm.
As you underwrite deals, as you explore markets, you might not land on this market. You might land on Baltimore. You might land on Wilmington, Hartford. Hartford has a lot of deals, but the town is going to shit, going bankrupt. So
right.
I don't know. It might be Newark, some parts of New Jersey. New Jersey has high property taxes, so I stay away.
Yeah.
And in Pennsylvania, you can evict someone real fast.
Yeah, that's where that's where our eye is on right now, because that's where we kept seeing these nice deals and these nice prices pop up.
Yep.
So I think that the location is good, and I saw you going through it with the property, so I was like, all right, that is the right direction.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on timing? Right, there's a lot going on with the market now. Lenders are sort of tightening up, and criteria is a little bit more stringent, right? So that financing will cost you. We know we have to get to the 20%, but what's your take on timing here?
Wait 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
I personally believe in buying all the damn time, man. I'm just not one of these cats that sits out and says, well, let me wait. There are going to be deals for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You're not ready to buy right this moment anyway.
Right.
So by the time you're ready, the deals will be there.
Mm-hmm.
But just to give you a sense, I'm putting a deal right now under contract.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always buying. I think, in my opinion, real players are playing at every phase of the market. When it's high, when it's in the middle, when it's on the way down. Because there's no way to really have a grip on the market until you've seen a lot, and you know what I mean. And the thing is, if you practice fundamental investing, which is you have a strict criteria for the cash return. When values might dip temporarily, but your cash flow won't.
Right.
So as long as you're buying based on a strict return requirement, you should be fine.
Okay. No, that's good.
And the timing will be ripe for the next 1.5 to 2 years anyway. Is my belief. And then on top of that, the funny thing is it's really localized. Like in Allentown, things are still up. There's still a lot of construction. People are jacking up the prices still, and people are still paying for it. Because real estate just happens to be one of those uber localized situations. So there's deals out there. I would very much encourage you to, take a Saturday, wake up in the morning, you get to the market by 9, you have breakfast, and you walk around. That's what I did every weekend for damn near a year, literally. And I would just walk around, and I would hit a bunch of brokers and pretend I had the cash now. Hey, I'm ready to buy right now. What you got?
Yeah.
You start looking at deals, and you start getting to know the players and some of the lenders and the mortgage brokers, and it's an interpersonal game. So
yeah.
So
no, thank you, man. Listen, appreciate the talk and the insight and you sharing the experience. And I'm sure I'll have questions. Would love to grab a drink with you one day and just sit down and shoot the breeze for 30 minutes. But definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, man. No, definitely. Yeah, we're connected now. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so for sure, would love to get together and, yeah, man, happy to lend any insight I can around specific markets or whatever. I'm really passionate about more of us owning more, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
a very empathetic landlord with my tenants,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, I see some of the way my fellow landlords here in Allentown speak about their tenants
Mm-hmm.
gets me to know that, you know, they think being poor like, they think all poor people are bad, but I
Right.
can be poor. Poor just means you're poor.
Poor
Uh,
just means poor. Yeah. No.
doesn't mean that, you know, you're a bad person. You're just
Yeah.
trying to make ends meet, and so
Still human, man. Still
still
human.
human. So the more of us that are in positions of ownership and control and influence and power, the
Mm-hmm.
better. So,
Yeah.
enjoyed this, man.
Will do.
Uh, hit me up anytime, and my inbox is always open to you, man.
All right. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. Be well.
Thanks. All right. Have a good one.